Good evening, everyone. Welcome to You and Your Health. My name is Erika Roberts, a co-host of this program, and I have my other co-host, Dr. Edward Osuman, who's working double duty in the back in case you don't see him. So due to some scheduling conflict, we are beginning our program about 5 minutes early. Dr. Eddie and I are very, very excited to have today's speaker, um, lawyer Ikua Obwaje, and we'll introduce you to her in a few seconds. So Eddie and I thought that immigration is a very important topic for some of our members and any viewer that may be watching a program. And you probably be thinking, well, how does immigration affect one's health? Well, immigration status affect folks' overall well-being. That includes financial well-being, mental, emotional, as well as their spiritual well-being. So some of us may take it for granted, but one's immigration status could truly impact their survival, particularly in this country. So we are excited, again, as I indicated, for us to have the lawyer, Ikua Obwache, who practices in U.S. immigration law as well as U.S. trade laws. She's here tonight to share some light on any updates that we may have in terms of U.S. immigration law, and that can affect Ghanaians both here as well as in Ghana. But before we get started, we want to thank our last speaker, Mrs. Denisha Hamilton, for her excellent presentation on how we could address mental health as a community. Denisha gave plenty of tips on some of the signs that we should look for when someone is struggling with mental illness, and gave us suggestions on how we could help them get through that situation. So if you have not watched that program, as usual, we ask that you watch it and please share it with others. So we're going to get started with this evening discussion, as we indicated, because of time constraints with lawyer Obwache. So lawyer Ikua Obwache Esquire is the founder of Law Office of A.K. Poku. She is licensed to practice law in both the U.S. and Ghana. She has worked in law firms in Ghana as well as with a Wall Street law firm here in the U.S. She is based in Northern Virginia, but represents individuals all throughout the country, regardless of their location. She operates her law office on the values of innovation, great client experiences, and results. She speaks English, French, and Chi. So there isn't a language barrier for you looking her up. She has spoken at numerous professional events, including most recently speaking at the Ghana Embassy on immigration updates, and she belongs to the Ghanaian Professional Association, which is where Eddie and I actually met her. And so we are very delighted that she was able to take time out of her busy schedule and her practice to join us this evening to answer some of the questions that we may have. So we are hoping our viewers that you all will put your questions in the chat box, and for Lawyer Obwache to respond. And Dr. Eddie will make sure that those are displayed so that she'll be able to address them while she is on the program with us. And so with that being said, Dr. Eddie, if you don't mind, we can bring and welcome Lawyer Obwache.
Hi, Lawyer Obwache.
Hello, Lawyer Obwache.
Hello, good evening. You guys can call me Ikea, please.
I knew you were about to say that.
I prefer the Ohenechini.
Okay, sure. That also works.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining our program. Thank you for accepting our invitation. As I indicated, even though the program has to do with health education and prevention, immigration status certainly affects individuals' health. They may not necessarily assume that, but it actually does. And so we're hoping that after you do your presentation, if people have questions regarding any updates, that you'll be able to share with them. So with that said, you can go ahead and do your presentation.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. So let's just jump right in. We don't have too much time. So I'd like to start by saying that, former President Trump, during his era, between 2017 and 2020, actually implemented over 1,000 policy changes just with regards to immigration. So imagine that means that every single day of 3 years, the last 3 years, he came up with a new change or a new law that affected immigration. And so you had everybody running helter-skelter. Immigration law firms were, some assaulting over their heads, trying to catch up. Immigrants were living in fear. They were worried. People who had filed applications were not sure what was going on. So another thing that he also did that was as astounding was that there are about 520 immigration judges all over the United States, and he actually appointed over 346 of them, and these are lifetime appointments. And he put the judgeships, he put people who have very strict outlook on law and are not very liberal towards immigrants. And so those are the kinds of people that he appointed. So President Joe Biden comes in, he says, look, our immigration system is broken, people have lost trust, and so he wants to rebuild or reform this system. And so that's how come the US Citizenship Act of 2021 was introduced into Congress. And Article 1 of the US Constitution gives mandates to Congress to make federal laws. And so if a bill, which is just a proposal of a law, is introduced into Congress, it means that the House and Senate both make up Congress. They have to vote and then pass the bill into a law. So we can talk a little bit about this US Citizenship Act. And as I've said on many platforms, this is the immigrant's dream. The US Citizenship Act contains so many promising sections, and the major proposition of this bill is that it's going to give 11 million undocumented people legal status, and then an earned pathway to citizenship. And so, there's going to be an application process where they will do some background checks as well as criminal checks. And then if you are cleared up, you will get a 6-year status known as the Lawful Prospective Immigrant status. And so that is going to be the bridge between your undocumented state and your documented state. After 5 years of holding that status, which will be evidenced with a card, so it's going to be a physical card that you will be given, you can then apply for a green card. You hold that for 3 years, and then you can apply for citizenship. And so when you add the 5 + 3 years, it's an 8-year pathway, right? And for people who may not qualify for the green card, the Lawful Prospective Immigrant status will give them, you can renew it at the end of the 6 years. You can renew it without applying for a green card. And you can work, travel, and also get a social security number, with that Lawful Prospective Immigrant status. Okay, so now, as I'm saying, this is a bill. This is not a law. It's been introduced into the House of Representatives, which has 435 members. And unfortunately, what is happening currently is there's a major border crisis. When people heard that President Joe Biden is now president, everybody's rushing and coming in because they're like, oh, the orange man is gone. This new president loves immigrants. So we're all coming to get our share of the American pie. And so there is a crazy rush at the Mexican border, everybody trying to come in. And so the Republicans are saying, no. This is not the time to pass a new law.
Immigration law.
Yeah, we need to solve the problem at the border. So that is why they came in last week, where they're trying to pass, piecemeal legislations, meaning that from the bill, US Citizenship Act, they are picking out, a couple of titles or sections and passing those. So last week I did some videos on my personal my business Facebook page, talking about this in detail, but we spoke about the fact that the American Promise Act as well as the Dream Act were passed. The Promise Act covers TPS, DED people. Those are people from countries with, war-torn countries or countries with some extraordinary circumstance. And the US says that stay here for a temporary time. We're giving you protection because there's craziness happening in your country. Those are the TPS and DED. And that is what is known as the Promise Act. And then they also passed the Dream Act, which is for people who came to the US when they were under 18 years through no fault of theirs and are out of status. Okay. So the House of Representatives voted, and they passed these two acts, as well as the Farm the Farm Workers Modernization Act as well. So that's also for agricultural workers who have worked for a number of days within the past 2 years, I think 180 days. And these are people who have actually fed America and actually fed America during the crisis, the coronavirus. So it's sort of their way to pay them back for this thing that they did, because most of these farmers are out of status and they're struggling. And America, the House of Representatives is more focused on the fact that, look, we're more interested in these farm workers because they are feeding America. We want to reduce dependence on, foreign nations. And so that's why they pass these bills. And
so I have a quick question. The first two bills with the DREAM Act, how does that impact Ghanaians who are already like in the queue or trying to come to be part of?
So with the DREAM, with the U.S. citizens, with the DREAM Act and the Promise Act, I think the Promise Act does not affect Ghanaians because Ghana is not a designated TPS or DD. So more likely, the aspect that would impact Ghanaians would be the people who came here when they were under 18 years of age. Some people come with their parents. They come on B1, B2 visas. Let's say they came in 2008, and then they had 6 months to stay. And then their mother, so let's say a mother with a 6-year-old child, they came in 2008. The mother is like, look, Ajwa, young Ghana, we're here. And, they are here in Ghana. They're here in the US. And then the child just had 6 months to stay in the US. And then they, they went out of status. But thankfully for little children, there's no, they do not accrue unlawful presence when they're under the age of 18. So although they are out of status, that doesn't affect them. But when it comes to the DREAM Act, that will affect them because they came through no fault of theirs and they're out of status and they don't have green cards, they don't have citizenship, they don't have any sort of legalization. And so for people like that who are Ghanaians, that will definitely affect them because they'll be granted a immediate pathway to green card. They'll be granted green card.
Okay. So for B1, B2, that is the type of visa that business individuals are able to travel on, like a business visa.
Yeah, so the B1, B2 type of visa, the B1 and the B2, it's for either business, and then the B2 is for tourism. So there's this primary purpose test, and the test is that the primary purpose of that visa is to come to tour the country, visit, have fun, or undertake some light business, not work for somebody.
Okay. Got it. So go ahead, Eddie.
Okay, so a quick one. If you say somebody is out of status, like you made mention of out of status, I wouldn't know what out of status means. So
okay.
Yeah.
So from some of the questions that you asked initially, I saw a question on the types of immigrants that we have. So let's take it from there. So we have basically about 4 types of immigrants. We have the first, who are U.S. citizens, and these people, you can either be said to be naturalized or, born a U.S. citizen. And if you are naturalized, it means that, you were not a U.S. citizen when you were born, but you applied and then became a U.S. citizen. Some people acquire U.S. citizenship by, there's different methods of acquiring U.S. citizenship: acquisition, derivation, jus soli, born here, and, a few other ways. So that's U.S. citizenship. That's the topmost application. Then we have the second crop of people. We have the legal permanent residents, and these people are split into 2. We have the conditional residents, and then we have the permanent residents. The difference is that the conditional have for 2 years, and then the permanent residents have for 10 years, a card for 10 years. These are known as the green card holders because the card they hold is green, and it means that they have been given legal authorization to work and actually live in the U.S. Okay, so these are known as the immigrants category. We have the non-immigrants category, who are people who are on the B1, B2 visa, for example, who are here just to visit or who are here for schooling, temporary. They're not here to live in the US. And then also we have the other category. Other category means that there's humanitarian-based people. So we have the VAWA asylum, the refugee people, and then we also have within those people undocumented. Undocumented means that everybody that comes to the US, you get to a port of entry and you have to be admitted. That's the term. And you have to be inspected and admitted. And when you're inspected, you'll be given, a period of stay that, look, you have 6 months. That's your I-94, your record of admission. And those are the terms of your immigrant, your visa. And so if you come, let's say you at the border, at the airport, you're given 6 months. Usually you'll be given 6 months, and you overstay, even though you might have a visa that's valid for 5 years, it's a multiple entry. You can just stay for the authorized stay, 6 months. If you overstay by even a day, you are now set to be out of status because you no longer have permission to be on United States soil. So anybody that has exceeded the terms of their authorized stay is set to be out of status.
So I have a question. So if someone wants to get that whole 5-year visa for multiple entries, but then on that particular visa, they were given, let's say, 1 month, so 30 days for their first initial entry. So your advice would be for them to leave before the 30 days and then come back again.
Absolutely. That is what you are meant to do. You're supposed to, come and then spend exactly, less than the number of days you have been given, and go back and then come back and seek admission again at the port of entry. That's what we call the multiple entry. You go and come. But at each time, you have to abide by the number of days you've been given to stay in the U.S. So pretty much that.
Where will the fiancé K1 visa fall under?
Okay, so the K1 people are also non-immigrant. The K1 fiancé, it's for people. So the K1 gives prerogative to U.S. citizens to actually petition for their fiancés who are based in foreign countries. And so if you're a green card holder, that doesn't apply to you. It's just for, U.S. citizens. And if I have, let's say, a girlfriend or somebody I'm planning to get married to in Ghana, I can file a petition here, the I-129F. And that petition is just going to establish a romantic relationship between myself and my boyfriend or girlfriend. And then when that is approved, that is transferred to the NVC, National Visa Center. Your boyfriend goes for the interview, and then she's granted a 6-month visa. And that is actually a single entry visa for the K1. So you can only come in once. And when you come in, you have 90 days within which to get married to the spouse who petitioned for you. So, once you come in, it's a non-immigrant visa. But once you are able to get married, then you file an adjustment of status to become an immigrant. So,
have you noticed whether the time span of waiting for the Q1 visa, do you think it's gotten worse?
It definitely has. Yeah, I think it has, because I see, lots of people contact me. They're like, look, some have filed since 2019, as far back as 2019, and they still haven't had any response. So initially that was faster than the marriage-based green card, but now it's just really, because initially before the COVID, I would say people were waiting about 6 months, but now it's over like 18 months, 2 years, and the backlog is getting crazier, and it's
So I read that the Biden administration is proposing giving green cards to spouses and children who I guess the other spouse came to the U.S. for employment. So before, they weren't given green cards, but it sounds like with the new act that they might be giving green cards to the spouses and children as well.
Okay,
is that accurate? Or?
So this is what I want to say about this bill. So the U.S. Citizenship Act, as I said, is just a proposal. It has not yet been passed into a law. And remember that, we have to actually go through the House and go through Senate. And the proposals in there, they actually, they seem like pie in the sky realism. Like it's really a lot of all the good stuff. And then the Republicans don't think they're going to pass it. But essentially what is happening is that even if the House decides that, look, let's pass this bill, they have to overcome, the Senate. There's a 50-50 split in the Senate. The House of Representatives, Democrats have a thin majority, so that could pass. But with the Senate, there's a procedural hurdle known as the filibuster. And that is rooted in the fact that any senator can get up and, have a long debate, an ending debate
hours,
for 23 hours. And that is just to block a bill from being voted upon. So all these things in there, I don't know.
Well, they
And
were passing. It was too good
yes,
to be true for now.
yes, and
Eddie's
actually
laughing.
just last week, the Republicans also came out with their own bill, which is known as the Dignity Proposal. I also did an extensive review on my business page on, all the sections, and we dissected it. And this Dignity Proposal is just a very skeletal proposal of what they are also proposing. So as to what the details of who is going to get a green card and all that, we have to wait until the coming days to see what will happen, if what will pass and the amendments, because the bill will always go through amendments and committees and judicial, different hoops. All the committees in the House would have to give their amendments or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Dr. Eddie, do you have questions?
Yeah, so then I would say that, it's still in the pipeline, so we need not to put our hopes on it, right?
No, we can pray about it a little bit.
Yeah, we can pray about it, but it's actually
this is a church program.
Yeah, it's actually a good thing that the people came out with a dignity proposal, because that is also promising. It's actually very interesting because they are also promising to give legalization to the 11 million undocumented people, but it's more like they're going to do a 10-year work visa for them, let them, the undocumented people pay fines and redeem themselves and contribute to the American Business Fund. And then after, there's going to be a 5-year redemption program where, if they redeem themselves, pay back taxes and all that, they may get a pathway to green card. And I think that this is really great news because a lot of people, as you were saying, the sadness and the pain of people living without documentation in this country is real. There's a lot of frustration. I talk to people and they are going through terminal illnesses because of the sheer anxiety. They can't even go, things we take for granted. They can't even go to the hospital sometimes with their kids because they're afraid that they'll be asked for the ID, driving. Their hearts are in their stomachs. Look, they are not free. And so people just want to be given some sort of ID just to say, look, I'm also free. This is just too heavy on me. It's a darkness that hovers over me. So they just want some sort of ID. They don't even care for citizenship. So the dignity proposal, which is not promising citizenship, people don't really care. And that's really good news, because if I can just be given an ID and say that, look, this is me, this is my name, I'm legal, I can work, I can feed my family, that's what people want. So I think it's looking good so far. Let's see what happens. But as I keep saying, if you qualify for any type of immigration benefits, you should definitely apply. Don't wait for this bill, because these senators and representatives, they're always doing their gymnastics in Congress and on Capitol Hill. So you don't want to focus,
miss your chance.
Yeah, exactly.
So I have a question. If you have your green card, right, back in the day, the 80s and 90s, people had their green card and they literally would not apply for citizenship. And I remember when George Bush came in office, that's when everybody was running to try to apply for citizenship, those who've been here for a very long time. Because before, they didn't care. It didn't matter to them, right? But then they realized that the laws may start changing. So they went ahead and filed for citizenship. So those who green card holders who may be in the pipeline or timeline to obtain citizenship, would you recommend they go ahead and file for citizenship then?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no better time as now, because in fact, December 2020, right before President Trump left, he put a huge impediment, applying for naturalization. What he did was that there's a 2008 civics test that you have to take before you become a citizen. And then he implemented a 2020 civics test. With the 2008 civics test, you had to study for just 100 questions and pass 6 over 10 to become a U.S. citizen, in addition to passing the English test as well. But with Trump, he made it 128 study questions, and you had to pass 16 over 20. He made it very, more difficult, and he put a lot of impediments. So President Joe Biden came and he has reverted everything to the 2008, the easier test. And he actually issued a presidential proclamation last month in February. And he stated that, look, he's removing all the roadblocks to naturalization. The process must become easier. So now it's, he said they are reducing the time frame for processing citizenship cases. So this is such a good time, because you never know, who's going to come again and what's going to happen. And you all know the benefits of citizenship. It's worth it. So
So why is it that then we have a long wait time for adjustment of status for naturalization? It's kind of like we are getting 51 months. Yesterday I saw 51 months. I saw 28 months for like. It was mind boggling.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're right. I mean, look, when it comes to immigration, it's just a very, very slow game, and it's actually been worsened. It's worsened because of the coronavirus, as you all know. Last year, October 2020, there was news. President Trump again, they wanted to actually furlough, like they wanted to reduce the number of USCIS workers, and then he wanted to also cut down the budget, because he feels like immigration, why should we waste money on trying to legalize people? I guess it wasn't something they really liked. So all those things increase the backlog, especially also because of the coronavirus. They weren't given so much money to be able to work, like get lots of people on board and work. And so there's just lots of backlog. In fact, currently there's about 1.3 million pending immigration court cases, and sometimes people have to wait as long as 5 years to just to get a date for an individual. That's actually what for a first hearing, as long as 5 years. So the backlog is really real. You just have to. That's why I keep saying, as soon as you can apply, as soon as you can apply. That's really it.
How about those with work permits? Like those who work permits. Some people have work permit. I've heard people who have let their work permit expire. Would your recommendation be for them to obviously keep it active, renew it before it expires? Because I don't know how that affects their total immigration status if they let that particular document expires.
Yeah, I mean, usually the work permit is hinged on something. It usually is. You can't apply for a work permit in vacuum. Like, it's based on something. So let's say you're applying for asylum and then it's attached, or a TPS status and it's attached, or a marriage-based green card and you add it, or something, or OPT or whatever. So if it's expired, you definitely need to renew it. You have to renew it based on something. So I would recommend speaking with an attorney to see what attachment is, if it's renewable, and all the kinks that will be associated with that.
Yeah, a quick one. So, since you made mention of asylum, another documentary I watched last night.
Okay.
I saw some Ghanaians, Ivorians, all moving through El Salvador, Ecuador, and then through those places, cross the Panama on foot, and then get to Mexico. Do you recommend they come in through that angle? Because it looks like it's becoming easier to get in through those places, through the border that Trump couldn't finish, to get a working permit or a stay in the US.
Well, I can't recommend any route for asylum. I mean, so we can just talk about, asylum. As you know, asylum is when you are outside the US and you're facing fear of persecution, like you are afraid for your life, and so you want to come here to the US to seek refuge. And the persecution has to be based on one of these five grounds: religion, race, political opinion, or belonging to a particular social group, such as you're a gay person and your country hates gay people and they want to kill you and all of that. So, you come to the US, and then when you come, you need to let them know that, look, you're trying to, you're being persecuted, you have fear of persecution.
Not to cut you short.
Sure.
So let's focus on Ghanaians. Okay. Which of them can we utilize?
What do you mean, which of them can we utilize? Which of the ways of... So I've actually spoken to Ghanaians who have actually come through Mexico. There are some there. They come through Mexico. Some of them come through... I hear... I mean, they say they come through Mexico, so I guess it's a way. But once you come here, you have to make sure that you're filing within the 1-year deadline. So Ghanaians actually do come through that. And...
but you can't necessarily come through Ghana filing asylum when there's really not much happening, right? You can.
So you actually can. So we have two types of asylum. We have the affirmative, and then we have the defensive. So affirmative asylum is, for example, you have a B1, B2 visa, and then you come to the US, and you come here, and then you're like, look, I'm afraid of some persecution. I want to stay here. You will then file an application to the USCIS, which is United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. That's an affirmative asylum application. This is because you are not in removal proceedings. You know, you are not, but when you come through, you come through a port where you are not admitted and inspected, you know, it means that you're already deportable, because you were not, everybody has to come to a port of entry, must be admitted and inspected. And so if you come through Mexico from the get-go, you are already deportable. And so you will be put immediately into removal proceedings. And so your path would be a defensive asylum, because you are now currently in front of an immigration judge, and you need to use asylum as your defense for please don't take me out. This is my defense. I fear being persecuted. So
yeah, so that may not be a good way to come to the US, Dr. Eddie.
Anyway, it's a good way.
I mean, it's okay, because some people actually have genuine fear. Let me read just a little bit of this for you. There's a legal test for well-founded fear, because you can't come and say that, oh, my mother is chasing me with a stick, and so there's, I'm seeking asylum, or there's a popular cat chasing me. It has to be a well-founded fear. And in a couple of cases, it says that you need to show that even establishing a 10% chance of being shot is sufficient to establish asylum. Because when you have actually lived in real fear before, you will understand that when you even have a 2% chance of being shot, that is massive.
Huge.
So it has to be a real fear. So if you're Ghanaian, of course, because I've dealt with some Ghanaians from the northern part of Ghana, and they've had some conflicts and issues, and these things have to be documented in the newspapers, and it has to be verifiable that you are being chased. And remember that the persecution has to come from the government or somebody or an institution that the government cannot control. So it's not enough that your family hates you. It has to be bigger than that and more uncontainable.
Yeah. Dr. Eddie, you had a couple of questions you want to ask before she has to run out.
I had this quick one. So considering the U.S. Citizenship Act, if someone has A or G visa, does it have a pathway for the person to launch onto a green card from there?
I don't know. The A visa is for, ambassadors and diplomats. The G visa is for people who are escorting, right? Like the G visa, they're escorting or coming to
with them.
Yeah, with them. To be honest, I have actually, quite studied the 353 U.S. Citizenship Act. That's the, how bulky the document is, 353 pages. I've looked at it, but I don't remember seeing that specific aspect.
Okay.
I don't remember at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It's like an au pair. Au pair comes and then they want to file for green card. I'm not sure if that works. I know back in the day, they used to have things in the news about au pairs being abused and, trying to use that status to stay in the country. And I guess each case is a little different.
Oh, yeah. Actually, you know what that brings to mind? Yes, you're right. So so there are certain types of visas, like there's a U visa, there's a T visa. The U visa is when you are the victim of a crime, a qualifying crime. And there's a tall list of qualifying crime, like blackmail, extortion, rape, robbery. And what this does for you is, as a U visa, like once you are a victim of this crime, once you are able to report it, and then you can assist the government or the police to resolve or to investigate, you will be given a status known as a U visa, which is usually valid for, I think, about 3 years, and then you can get a green card out of that. So that's how people are able to. And then the T visa is also, the trafficking type of visa, where people are undocumented, they're here in the US, they don't have papers, and then they have their employers threatening them and trying to tell them, look, you don't have papers. If you don't work for $1, I'm going to report you. That's a crime. So you can also get a green card through that. So
okay, because that was kind of a big thing in the
I
early
see.
90s, where
I don't
people
think
would bring people to take care of their kids from all different countries, even African countries. And then they once they get here, after a couple of months, they might feel like they're being abused, being overused, and then they will file for some kind of petition using that method. So, yeah. Is there a question? Oh, in a moment. What is a process for an individual who has overstayed their status? That's from Auntie Jane.
And then let me add this one to it, and then maybe.
And then we can let her go. You're quite smiling. I know her time is up.
Yeah, I know. Look, we have a lot of questions.
If you have a lot of questions, how does filing for filing for biological children works? Do you have a time to answer one or two questions, or?
Sure. Okay, let me just take the last question. How does filing for biological children work? It depends on so many things. First of all, if you're filing for anybody, we need to know what your immigration status is. Are you a green card holder or are you a US citizen? That's the first thing. It will depend on what kind of status you are. So if you're a US citizen, you can file for 3 types of people known as immediate relatives. That's your child, your spouse, or your parent, and they have priority. So with those people, they don't have to wait for a visa to become, that was a visa bulletin thing we included, but they don't have to usually wait for a visa to become available. You can immediately file for them. You can actually do a concurrent filing, which is the I-130, I-485 together.
Okay.
The petition as well as the adjustment of status, the petition for the alien relative. But when you have a child and your status is a green card holder, for instance, you are limited. So so the other category is known as the family preference category. It's about, so we have the F1, F2A, F2B, F3 and F4. So the F2A is when the green card holder wants to file for his spouse or his minor children. And when you are F2A, it means that you have to wait for a visa to become available. So you'll be given a priority date when you file for the I-130. It's on your receipt, and the priority date has to come before you look at the filing dates, and you should be able to read it. If it comes before the filing date and it says C, it means there's a visa available. It means there's current. If it's you, it's unavailable. So with those people, you cannot file the I-130, I-485 in combo. You have to do it a one-step process. You do the I-130 petition for alien relative. If it's approved, you have to wait for a visa to become available, before you can you can adjust your status through the I-485 process. So it's a little, but yeah, I don't know if that answers the question. But yeah, you can file for your biological child. It depends on your status. And then
so obviously, if you're a citizen, it would be much faster. If someone is almost close to becoming a citizen, like let's say a year out, it would be best for them to actually wait to get their citizenship and then file for their child, do you think? Or kind of do it?
Always file ASAP, and when you file as a green card holder, you can still file for citizenship when your time is up, and then we upgrade your petition that now she's no longer a green card holder, she's no longer the F2A, she's now an immediate relative, so please upgrade it so that you don't have to
adjust it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I know we've taken your time. This is a lot of information. We have to have you come back, and we're hoping that you'll be able to do that. I know. And then we will just have to let our viewers and the church members know that we'll have you earlier. It's 6 o'clock or 6:30, and that time our program will be adjusted to fit your schedule as well. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming, and we look forward to you coming back to our program. Dr. Eddie, do you have any final words before we let Cora go? Not a long one.
If she can put her contact details online so that if she mind, people can contact her if they want to.
Okay. Yeah. How do I put it? I don't even. Funny enough.
That's Addie. Well, you have her work website up there as well, and then you can put an email at the bottom. Even if she's gone off the screen, you can do that.
I think the phone number is good. The phone number in the website.
Yeah.
Okay, the phone number on the website is good. Okay.
Yeah.
So he will put it on there. But thank you so much again. We're gonna have to let her go.
Thank
So
you so much.
you and I
Had
can
lots
talk
of
on the
fun.
back. Yeah, likewise as well. Thank you,
Have
Akua.
a good
All
evening.
right, you
Have
too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So yeah, Dr. Eddie, whenever you get a moment, you can put it on the screen for others to see. This was a great conversation. I just wish you had more time with that. Yeah. So next time, okay, so that's it. That's 802-780-0564. Again, that's 802-780-0564. And her website was on the screen as well. Dr. Ed, if you don't mind putting the website back on just so people can see that as well. So that was Lawyer Boache. If you have any questions for her, please certainly feel free to send it to emcunandyourhealth@gmail.com or to myself or Dr. Eddie, and we'll make sure that we forward it to her. I'm sure that our members enjoyed this discussion. Did we have a lot of questions, Dr. Eddie? I see you smiling.
Yeah, a lot of questions.
We had a lot of questions. So what we'll do is we can compile it and send it to her for a response. If she feels like it's something that's a lot, that would take a lot of time, then we probably have to have her come back.
Yeah.
Just have to let the church know to it should be on a little earlier than the 7 p.m. Timeline. So those of you watching it, I'm sure anyone can benefit from this discussion. We ask that you please do share with others as well so that they too can benefit from the discussion. So Dr. Eddie and I will be back next week with our new guest, Mr. Jimo Hilton, on all things financial health. So please make sure you come ready with your questions. And as usual, please feel free to submit questions to youandyourhealth@gmail.com. And we'd like to remind you to please continue to stay safe, wear your mask, wash your hands, and social distance. If you are one of the lucky ones who are given the opportunity to get the coronavirus vaccine, we do ask that you consider getting it. Dr. Abbey and Dr. Eddie's presentation on COVID disease and vaccines can also be found on the church's Facebook platform. And their program will give you additional information, hopefully an insight on as to whether to consider taking the vaccine or not. And thanks for watching. Thank you so much. I know we had a short program, but we appreciate you joining us a little bit early, and we will see you next week on all things financial health. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.